Hi guys, tonight we are going somewhere that has no name. No road signs, no landmarks you would recognize, no sounds you have heard before in quite the same way. The place exists, and you are in it, and it takes a moment to understand what is different. Something about the light. Something about the way sound moves. The air is not stale the way rooms get stale, and it is not fresh the way mornings sometimes are when a window is left open. It is just air. Unmanaged, doing what air does without anyone arranging it. You are not sure where you have woken from. The ground underneath you is not flat in any perfect sense. It has a give to it, and a hardness beneath that, and something that might be packed leaves or might be grass pressed down over time. You shift, and the shift makes a sound. Something else is awake nearby. You cannot see what. But you can hear it faintly, the small movement of another body in the dark. You are not alone, and that matters. It matters in a way you do not need to explain to yourself. You are somewhere early, very early. Not early in the morning, though it might be that too. Early in the long story of human beings on this land. And the world around you is full and alive and only partly known. Wherever you are as you listen, if you enjoy this kind of calm storytelling, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And if you genuinely like it, leave a comment letting me know where you are listening from and what time it is for you. It is always interesting to see where these quiet moments are being shared. Let yourself settle. There's nothing asking for your attention right now. The sounds around you are just the world breathing, and you can breathe with it. Let your thoughts come down a little. Let the heaviness in your body be something you accept rather than resist. You are going somewhere slow tonight, and it will take as long as it takes. The dark before you opened your eyes was not empty. There were sounds in it. There are always sounds. A low wind moving through something trees, maybe, or tall dry grass, the kind that whispers when it moves. There is a distance in the sound. Something far away is moving. Something closer is still. You open your eyes and the dark is not absolute. There is a faint difference between the sky and the horizon, barely, just enough that the shapes of things are present without being clear. Shapes of people, shapes of trees, shapes that are just darkness against slightly lighter darkness. You have slept in a depression in the ground, not exactly a shelter but a place that cut the wind, that kept some warmth near the bodies grouped together in it. Other people are here. You cannot count them, but you know roughly how many. You know this the way you know most things about your immediate world, not by thinking about it, but by having absorbed it over time. One of them is already awake. You can tell by the quality of their stillness. People who are asleep are still in one way. People who are awake and quiet are still in another way. You have learned to read the difference. You do not speak. There is no reason to speak yet. The world has not asked anything of you yet, and you are not asking anything of it. The wind moves again. It carries something. Difficult to name something damp, or something recent, or something that was somewhere else a few minutes ago and is now here. You hold it in your nose for a moment. You do not know what it means. You note it. This is how most of your mornings begin. Not with a decision, but with a noticing. You open into the world slowly, the way something waterlogged comes slowly to the surface. You are here. The world is here. You begin to understand what kind of day it might be. Early humans woke to assess, not to plan. The first hours of the day were a reading of conditions, weather, smell, sound, the behavior of birds before any decision about movement or food was made. The sky is changing now, very slowly. The darkness at the edge is giving way to something not yet blue, just less dark. The stars are still clear in the upper part of the sky. There are many of them, too many to count, and you have never tried to count them, but you know where certain ones are, and their position tells you something rough about the time of year and the direction of the land ahead of you. You sit up. Your body is stiff in ways that are familiar. The hip, always. The shoulder that took a fall several seasons ago and never fully returned to itself. These are just facts about your body. The way the ground being uneven is a fact about the ground. You adjust. The person beside you stirs. You glance at them. They glance at you. Something passes between you that is not quite language. An acknowledgement. A question with no particular urgency. You both look at the sky. Something is moving at the edge of the land, far enough away that it is difficult to say what it is. An animal. More than one, maybe. They are dark shapes against a slightly lighter strip of ground. You watch them without moving. They are moving away. That is information. The others begin to stir now, one by one. Not all at once. There is no signal. It happens the way light happens gradually, each part of it its own small thing. Someone coughs. Someone makes a sound that is close to a word but not quite a word. A sound you understand anyway. You understand it as, I am cold. I am awake. I am here. The fire from last night is not dead, but it is close. There are coals in it still, deep in the ash, orange when you move air across them. This is the first task. Not gathering food, not moving, not speaking. First, the fire. You bring small things to it. Dry bark you kept under a fold of hide through the night, specifically to keep it dry. Small sticks. Dry grass pulled from where it was pressed under the weight of the sleeping. You feed these to the coals gently, with patience that is not patience in any thoughtful sense. It is just the understanding that this takes time, that there is no faster way, that the fire will come back when it is ready. It comes back. It always comes back if the coals are there and the fuel is right. A small flame, almost embarrassingly small for a moment, and then more. The warmth of it is immediate on your face and your hands. You hold your hands near it longer than is necessary. You just hold them there. Fire is not taken for granted here. This is not something you have decided to understand, it is just true. The fire represents hours of effort if it were lost. It represents warmth and cooked food, and the particular kind of safety that comes from light in the dark. You carry it in your awareness the way you carry awareness of the people around you. It is part of the count of things that are here and must remain here. Research suggests that by around 400,000 years ago, early humans were controlling fire regularly, using it not just for warmth, but for protection, for processing food, and for extending the usable hours of the day. The group collects loosely around the revived fire. Nobody said to do this. It happens. The warmth pulls at everyone in the same way, and you all respond to it. Someone drinks from a container made of something thick and curved the inside of something animal, or a vessel pressed from clay left somewhere to dry. You do not think about it specifically. You just reach for water. There is a decision to make this morning, though it is not yet spoken. You have been in this place for 2 nights. That is already longer than you usually stay. The gathering near here has slowed you found less yesterday than the day before, and the day before less than the day before that. This is how it goes. You come, you take what the land offers, and then the land offers less, and you move on. But the moving on is not simple. There is a direction question. There are people here who remember the land to the east, a river system, a place where certain things grew, a place where animals came to drink. But that was last season or the season before, and things change. The river might be lower. The animals might have moved. There is also the matter of the group to the south. You have not seen them, but you have seen signs of them, marks on trees, remains of fires. A different kind of tool left near a kill site, not an enemy in any certain sense, but also not your group. An unknown. And unknowns carry their own kind of weight. The decision will be made by movement, not by conversation. Someone will begin to pack their things to gather what is carried, to arrange what is carried onto the body, and others will watch and assess, and some will follow and some will wait, and the waiting will tell you something about who agrees and who is uncertain. You watch the oldest among you. Not because they make the decisions. It is more subtle than that. You watch because experience lives in them in ways that have proved useful before. They are looking at the sky, at the east, at the land between here and the trees. Their face does not show a conclusion, but it shows attention. You begin to gather your things. Movement through this landscape is not walking in any simple sense. You walk. Yes, your legs carry you, but the act of moving through land that you only partly know, that is full of things that are not marked or named, that has its own intentions and its own indifferences, that is something else. Something that requires a constant low hum of attention. Your eyes move before your feet do. You scan ahead, not for particular things but for wrongness. A stillness where there should be movement. A movement where there should be stillness. A shape that does not quite fit its surroundings. The land here has a texture you are learning as you move through it, and deviations from that texture matter. The group spreads slightly as it moves. Not scattered, you can still see each person, most of the time, but spread enough that if something were disturbed at the front, the people behind would have a moment. A small advantage. This is not a rule. It is just how movement tends to arrange itself when people are paying attention. The ground underfoot changes. For a while it was pressed grass, dry, springy. Now it is harder, rockier, a thin pale soil over something solid. Your feet read this change and your weight shifts slightly, preparing for different surfaces. You have been doing this so long that you do not think about it. Your body just knows there is a smell here that is new. Animal, not recent several days, maybe, but present. You stop for a moment. Others stop around you, watching where you are looking. You are looking at a depression in the grass, a slight darkening at its center, the kind of mark left by something large lying down for a long time. The mark is old. Whatever made it is gone. But the size of it matters. The size says something about what was here and might return. You move on. The smell fades behind you. By midday, not that the word midday exists for you, but by the time the light is highest and flattest and the shadows have drawn back to sit directly beneath things, the group has found a place to pause. A riverbank. The water is low here but moving, clear enough over the stones. You can see the bottom. The noise of it is constant and clean, and it fills the air in a way that feels like relief after the silence of the open land. Everyone drinks. Not politely, not carefully. People kneel at the edge and drink from their hands or lower their faces to the water and drink. The cold of it is remarkable. It goes down into you, and the shock of it is pleasurable in a very simple way. Someone moves upstream, looking at the shallows. The fish here, if there are fish, will be in the deeper parts of the bends, but shallows can tell you something. You watch from the bank while they move slowly, carefully, their shadow kept behind them. Tracks at the water's edge, many of them, various sizes in the soft mud. This place is used by deer, by something with a wider track, by birds that have pressed their particular print near the waterline. The density of tracks says something about how recently and how often. You read them without quite translating them into thoughts. The reading and the understanding happen at the same time. Research suggests that early human groups relied heavily on tracking, reading animal prints, feeding signs, and territorial markings as a primary means of both locating food and understanding the safety of an area. Some researchers believe tracking may have driven certain aspects of human cognitive development, including sequential reasoning and delayed inference. You eat something here. A root, dried, from what was gathered yesterday. It is not satisfying in the way cooked food is satisfying, but it does something. It quiets a particular quality of discomfort that would otherwise grow through the afternoon. You eat it without much attention. You are watching the tree line. The afternoon goes long. This is a particular quality of days like this, days where movement has been steady but nothing significant has happened. The light gets heavy. The air thickens slightly in the way it does when heat has accumulated since morning. You are walking again, less urgently, moving toward something that is more remembered than certain. There is a hill ahead, not large, but elevated. You have been to places like it before, and you understand its value. From the top you can see distance. Distance is information. Distance tells you where the land is open, where it presses in, where something might be moving, where something might be resting. You move toward it. The climb is short but steep at the top. You feel it in your legs. The oldest member of the group stops halfway, and another person stays with them. This is not discussed. It is just the way of things. Some move on and some wait, and the ones who wait are waited for. From the top, you can see for a long way. The land opens in all directions, a different scale than you usually experience. You can see the river you left behind, a glinting line now, and the darker line of trees that runs alongside it. You can see open ground ahead, pale and grassy, and beyond that a darker mass that might be forest, or a change in terrain, or something else. You look for smoke. Smoke means fire, fire means people, and people here are a thing you must account for before you decide where to move. There is no smoke visible. This tells you something or tells you nothing. People who are being careful do not make large fires in the daytime. You look for birds. Flocks of birds moving in a particular direction can mean something has disturbed them. Certain birds, perching in unusual arrangements, can mean there is something below them worth investigating. You watch for a moment. The birds are unremarkable, moving normally. You come back down. There is a child in the group. Young, old enough to walk, but young enough to tire quickly. The child has been carried for part of the afternoon, first on one person's back and then, when that person grew tired, on another's. This is unremarkable. The carrying moves around. It is a shared weight. You have watched the child looking at things, the way small people look at things, with no context to sort what is important from what is not, so everything receives the same wide attention. A beetle. A particular cloud. The way the light behaves on the moving water of the river. You watch the child look at that light, the river light. The broken glinting of it, and something about that looking stayed with you. You have been moving for a long time. Long enough that the quality of your attention has changed. Not less sharp, exactly, but running lower. There is a difference between your attention in the morning, which is fresh, and your attention now, which is attentive out of necessity rather than energy. You are watching for the same things, but it costs more. This is ordinary. This is just the shape of a day that involves movement. You do not resist it or try to recover from it. You just note it as a condition and adjust. You talk less when you are tired. Most of the group talks less. The day becomes quieter in its second half, not because there is less to see, but because fewer people have the energy to share what they see. Someone at the front raises a hand. Not urgently. Just pause. Everyone pauses. There is a sound ahead. Difficult to identify. Not birds, not wind. Something rhythmic, dull, like something being struck against something. You listen for a long moment, all of you. The group forming a loose cluster with everyone facing the same direction. The sound stops. You wait. The sound does not return. After a while, someone begins moving again. The others follow. Not because anyone decided it was safe exactly, just because the danger, if there was any, did not materialize, and the body, having waited as long as waiting seemed useful, returns to forward motion. By the time the light begins to tip toward the west, to thicken and yellow and lose its flat quality, you have found a place to stop. It is not a perfect place. Few places are perfect. But it has what you need, something at your back. A rise of land, a dense cluster of shrubs, a rock face that curves. Space in front of you that you can see across. The fire, if you make one, will be visible for some distance, but it will also be somewhat sheltered. These things are in rough balance. The fire comes first again. Someone starts it before anything else is unpacked or arranged. The familiarity of this is real. The fire starting is the beginning of settling, the way a particular action can be the key that unlocks a whole sense of a place. The smoke goes up faint and pale, and you watch it for a moment to see where it goes, what it tells you about the wind. The work of the evening is quiet and practical. Sorting what was gathered today. There is not much this area gave less than hoped. Some berries, probably not enough. Roots, a handful of plant material that can be eaten raw but is better with heat. There is dried meat from the kill of 3 days ago, still edible, a little stiff, but it will fill something. The distribution of food is done without drama. People take what is given. The child eats a little and then slumps against the person nearest to them, and that person gathers the child in without looking, without adjusting their attention from what they were already attending to. The child is already almost asleep. The weight of them in that person's arms is just the weight. You eat. The food is not remarkable. It is food. It does what food does, and that is enough. The night is coming, and the group is shifting into its nighttime configuration. Not everyone goes to sleep at once. In fact, nobody goes to sleep quickly. Sleep in this life is not a clean transition, a room, a bed, a switch thrown. Sleep is something you ease into with the fire between you and the dark, with the sounds of the night beginning their particular inventory. The insects begin. They are very loud here, louder than you might expect if you had come from somewhere else which you have not. The insect sound is just the sound of evening. You barely notice it except as a quality of the air. The fire settles into itself. The wood has caught well, and the flame is steady enough now that it does not need constant tending. Someone stays near it anyway. This is not a formal arrangement, but it is a real one. Through the night, someone will always be less deeply asleep than the others, not awake in the alert daytime sense, but not unreachable, positioned between the fire and the dark, aware of it. The stars above are becoming visible again as the last of the daylight leaves the west. You watch them appear, one at a time and then many at once, the old familiar arrangement of them. They are the same as last night. They are the same as many nights before. There is something in this that functions like comfort, not warmth, not safety, but a kind of continuity. The stars are doing what stars do, and you are here, and things are, for now, as they should be. Anthropologists who study remaining hunter-gatherer societies have noted that these groups often sleep in multiple shorter periods through the night rather than one long block. This may have been the ancestral pattern lighter, interruptible sleep that allowed for continued awareness of the environment. You lie down. The ground is what it is. You have learned to find the not quite flat parts of it that are actually more comfortable than the flat parts, the ones where your hip can settle into a slight hollow, where your shoulder does not take the full weight. This is knowledge that has accumulated so slowly you cannot remember learning it. You just know where to put yourself. The fire is warm on your face. Behind you, the darkness. The middle of the night has a particular quality. It is not the same as early night, when the group is still settling. It is not the same as the hour before dawn, when the dark becomes a specific kind of dark that means it is almost over. The middle of the night is its own thing. Denser, somehow more solid. As if the dark has been there long enough to become real in a way it was not when it first arrived. You are not fully asleep. You are in the place between things, which is where you spend much of the night. The fire has dropped. There is still light from it, but less than there was. Someone replenished it recently. You can tell by the way the flames are still young in the new wood. A sound from somewhere to the east. Not loud, not close, but real. Something with weight to it. An animal, almost certainly, but what kind and how far are the two questions that your awareness assembles before you have decided to assemble them. The sound does not repeat. You breathe. You wait. The sound remains absent. The person nearest to you has shifted. Not woken, just moved in their sleep, the way bodies move when they are deeply somewhere else. Their breathing is very slow. The sound of it is ordinary and familiar, and in the gap of the sound that came from the east, the breathing is what you return to. One of the group is awake on the other side of the fire. You can see them, the fire silhouetting their shape, their head turned slightly toward the sound's direction. Then turning back. Then still. You are both awake and neither of you says anything about it, and that is a form of conversation. You both heard it. You both waited. You both decided, without deciding, that it did not require action. Sleep comes back slowly after that. Not sleep exactly. The place between things. Morning again. But different from yesterday's morning. There is cloud. Not a stormy sky, just covered, the light diffused, and even everything a little pale. The shadows that yesterday made the land readable are absent today. Everything looks slightly flattened. The fire this morning is lower than it should be. Someone slept more deeply than they meant to, and the fire was not fed through the night, and now it is just coals again. And it takes longer this morning to bring it back. The person who let it go low does not say anything. Nobody says anything to them about it. The fire is rebuilt. The morning continues. There is frost, not heavy, just a thin white on the grass at the edges of the camp, where the warmth of bodies and fire did not reach. You breathe and the air comes out as a small cloud and goes away. Someone who woke before you has already turned up the collar of their hide, has pressed their knees to their chest, is watching the fire with a very specific kind of patience. The cold this morning is a real thing, not a background condition of presence. It makes everything slightly more considered. Movement is harder to start. The body wants to remain curled, to keep what warmth it has, to delay the moment of standing and being fully in the morning air. You stand anyway. You stand because the cold will not get better by waiting, only by moving, and the body knows this even when it resists it. Winter is not something that arrives all at once here. It approaches the way all important things approach gradually, then suddenly, and then it is simply the condition of everything. And the group must be further along before that happens. This is the pressure behind the daily movement, never stated but always there. The season is turning. The land that feeds you does not feed you the same in all seasons. You need to be in a different place by the time the deep cold comes. Today, the group finds something. Not what they were looking for. They were not looking for anything specific, or rather, they were looking for the general category of things that can be eaten or used. But what they find is more particular. A kill site. Not recent, the bones have been picked by other animals scattered in a rough circle from the original spot. Whatever was here is long gone. But the site is informative. The bones are large. A large animal came here to die or was killed here. And the things that gathered after the tracks in the dried soil around the bones, the marks on the bones themselves from teeth, suggest that this place is known to predators. The oldest member of the group crouches near the bones for a long time, running fingers along the marks in one large piece of leg bone. Not for any specific purpose that you can name, just reading. The way reading happens with hands as much as eyes. You stand back and watch the tree line. This is what you do when someone else is reading something closely you scan. The pair of you are doing two different things that together make one thing. This is the pattern. This has always been the pattern. Someone attends to the immediate and someone attends to the distant, and together the world is covered. The site is left behind. But its location is noted, not written, not spoken about in any elaborate way, just folded into the knowledge of where things are. The map of the world is carried in the people who move through it. There is a particular kind of afternoon that comes after a day without clear success. Not a bad day, not a hungry day, or a dangerous day. Just a day that did not give much. The gathering was modest. The game they tracked was not found at the end of the tracking. The land was walked and read, and the reading was interesting, but did not translate into anything concrete to carry. These days have a feeling. A kind of low-grade waiting. A sense that the world has its own schedule and you are not in charge of matching your needs to that schedule. You are in the position of asking, and sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is not today. You do not think of this in those terms, of course, but the feeling is there, the slight flatness of a day that has not resolved into anything. You walk. The land here is open, gently rolling. The grass yellowed by the season, but still present, still moving slightly in the wind that comes and goes. There are birds somewhere above, riding the air without effort. You watch them for a moment. They are doing what birds do in the afternoon. Nothing in that to read. The person walking beside you has been quiet for a long time. Not in a troubled way, just quiet. There is company in that kind of quiet. You have been with this person through enough days and nights that the particular shape of their quiet is familiar to you. It is not worry, it is just quiet. There is a moment, late in the afternoon, when the land changes. It is not a dramatic change, not a cliff edge, not a river, just a gradual shift in the kind of ground you are moving through. The grass becomes shorter, patchier. The soil between the patches is darker and damper. There are small plants here that were not where you came from low, spreading things with round leaves, things with deep roots that draw from somewhere below. You pause and look at these things. The plants are recognizable. Not by name, you have no system of names the way later people will organize the world into named things, but by quality. By what they mean when they appear together in this way. Dark soil, these particular plants, the slight dampness of the ground, these things together suggest water nearby. Not on the surface, but close. The land is telling you something. Someone is already moving toward where the water should be. You follow. The water is there. A shallow seep, not a river, not even a stream. Water pressing up through the ground and spreading in a thin, dark patch before being absorbed again. But it is enough. You drink, you feel what can be filled. You note the place. This is what the day gave. Not much, but something. Camp this evening is in a different kind of place. A shallow, rocky overhang. Not deep enough to be a true cave, nothing in the back but more rock, but deep enough to keep the wind off, to hold some warmth, to put a ceiling over the fire. The rock above is blackened from old fires. Others have been here before. This is understood without anyone saying it, and it does not feel threatening. It feels, if anything, slightly comforting. This place is known. Not by you, but by someone. Research suggests that certain archaeological sites, shallow rock shelters, and overhangs were used repeatedly over thousands of years. Not by the same group continuously, but by different groups passing through the same territory across many generations. Some sites show evidence of use spanning hundreds of thousands of years. You look at the blackened ceiling for a while, trying to understand what it tells you. Only fire. Only time. The marks of something that happened here many times, and you are another instance of it, another fire, another night, another morning to follow. The group is more relaxed tonight than last night. The overhang is shelter in a way that open ground is not, and the body knows shelter in a way that the mind does not always articulate. People spread out a little more. The child is playing, or doing the child equivalent of playing, arranging small stones in a pattern on the flat rock near the fire, studying the arrangement, changing it. You watch for a moment without thinking about it. Someone is working on something with their hands. A piece of stone, a tool in progress, the sound of careful striking moving through the quiet. Each strike is deliberate. The stone comes away in small pieces, and the shape underneath emerges slowly over many strikes, over the patience of someone who has done this many times. The sparks from the stoneworking are very small, not fire sparks, just rock dust and light. There is a night in every few that is quieter than the others, not because anything has changed. The land is the same, the sounds are similar. But something in the accumulated weight of days, the walking, the reading of the land, the decisions made and not made, the food eaten and not found, something settles in the quiet nights in a way it does not in the others. The group is still. The fire is steady, and the particular quality of alertness that runs through everyone in this life drops very slightly to something closer to ease. You feel it, you cannot name it, but it is different from the ordinary restfulness of fatigue. It is more like satisfaction, though the word does not exist. Something like, this day was sufficient. The people around you are here. The fire is here. The cold is outside the circle of warmth rather than inside it. The oldest member of the group is making a sound. Very low. Not quite music, not quite speech. A kind of humming or a rhythm produced with breath that sits just at the edge of what you can hear from where you are. You do not pay attention to it, but you register it. It has been a sound in your life for as long as you can remember. It happens in these quieter evenings. It does not mean anything specific that you could explain. It means something is settled. You look up at the overhang above you. The dark rock with its evidence of other fires. You look at the ceiling of the world that was put here by the world, not by any person, and that has held up all the weather and all the years and will hold up more, and you do not think anything in particular about it. You just see it. The next morning breaks differently. The cloud cover from yesterday has organized itself into something heavier. The sky to the west, where the weather usually comes from, though not always, is a particular color that the people in the group know. A heavy gray-green, not the ordinary gray of overcast, a color that holds something in it. There is wind now that was not there before, not strong but purposeful, moving in a direction. The grass bends together and the sound it makes is higher than yesterday. The group is awake quickly today. The weather change pulled people from their sleep the way a sound might, not because it made a sound, but because something about it registered in that constant background monitoring of the environment that does not stop even during sleep. You feel it before you identify it. A change. Then that sky. The question of shelter is now immediate. Not desperate, the storm, if it is a storm, is still a distance away, but immediate in the sense that it has moved from a background consideration to a foreground one. The overhang from last night is behind you now, half a day's walk. Ahead, the land is open. You know this land well enough to know that there is a river valley to the north with tree cover that can break the worst of the wind. But the north means extra time, an adjustment, and the provisions are not generous today. The group moves, not hurriedly but with a different quality than yesterday's movement. Yesterday was exploratory. Today is purposeful. The land reads differently when you move through it with intention. You notice different things, not the seeps and the bones and the bird movements, the gaps in the tree line, the places where the land dips and might hold shelter, the wind direction, constantly. The rain comes in the early afternoon. It does not come dramatically. It comes as it usually does here, first as a smell, then as a sound in the distance that might be the wind, then as individual drops too sparse to call rain, and then as rain. You are in the open when it comes. There is no perfect shelter nearby. There is a cluster of trees at the low end of a slope, not far, and the group moves toward it. The trees are not large and they are not tight enough to be truly protective, but the canopy is something, and the lee side of the slope means the worst of the wind is deflected. You stand among the trees and the rain comes through them and you are wet within a short time. This is not a crisis. This is just rain. Your body knows what rain is. It is cold, and it is inconvenient, and it will pass, and when it passes the air will be clean and the ground will have absorbed what it needs and the world will continue. You do not love the rain, but there is nothing about it that surprises you. The child is against someone's chest, under the overlap of a hide. The child's face is visible, looking out at the rain with that particular quality of total present attention that children have. Not worried, not cold yet, just watching. The rain talks as it falls, through the canopy, through the underbrush, on the sloping ground. Different surfaces give different sounds, and together they make a kind of complexity that you cannot listen to in any detailed way. You just live inside it. It fills the space where your own thoughts might otherwise be. Someone makes a small fire under the best part of the canopy. Not a large fire there is not enough dry material, but enough. A small insistent flame that the rain has not found yet. You gather around it with the particular gratitude that cold people have for small fires. After the rain, everything is different, not different in a large dramatic sense, just different the way things are different after they have been washed. The smell of the land is very strong. The green of what is green is more saturated. The surfaces of things hold a particular gloss. You move out of the trees and into the open again. The ground under your feet has changed. The packed dry soil from before the rain is softened now gives differently, leaves a print where before it would not. You read the prints you are making as you make them automatic, a habit of observation. The sky is lighter to the west now. The storm moved through, and the end of it is visible. In the middle distance, the land is still gray with rain. But ahead, the light is coming back. There is something in the post-rain air that is clarifying. Not in any mystical sense, just that the rain has washed some quality of haziness from the atmosphere, and the distance is sharper. You can see the tree line of the valley you were moving toward, and it looks closer now, or at least more real, more detailed than it did before the rain. The oldest member of the group stops and puts their hand to the ground, holding it there a moment. Then taking it away. You are not sure what they read in that contact. You do not ask. They begin walking again. 3 days later, the landscape has changed considerably. You are in the forest now. Not the open forest of the fringes, but something denser, older, with a canopy high enough above that the floor below is dim even in the middle of the day. The light that comes through is filtered and broken, falling in shifting patches where the canopy is thin, in deep shadow where it is not. The sounds in here are different from the open land. In the open land, sounds travel. You hear things from far away. Here, the forest absorbs sound, and the world is closer, denser, the information compressed into the immediate. What matters in a forest is what is near. What is near is everything. Movement through this kind of forest is slower. The ground cover demands attention not just for what might be stepped on, but for what might be heard. There are branches here that would snap, leaves that would crush loudly. You learn to move with a different quality of care. Your feet are aware in a different way. The group is quieter here than on the open land. Not silently quiet, but the casual sounds of movement, the ambient sounds of being a group of people moving through space, are suppressed, not by any agreement, just by the nature of the forest. You feel observed here, though you do not know by what. The feeling is just present. There are old trees in this forest that are remarkable. Not remarkable in the way that you stop to remark on them, just remarkable in the way that something very large and very old sits differently in your awareness than things that are average. One of these trees you pass near it on the second morning in the forest has a trunk wider than several people standing shoulder to shoulder. The bark is deeply furrowed and gray, the base of it spreading into the ground in a way that seems to refuse to be simple. It is not a tree that begins where the ground ends. It is a tree that is also ground, that is also the underground, that is something continuous. You pass near it and feel something. You would not call it awe, exactly, the word does not exist. and the feeling is more physical than that a slight slowing, a slight awareness of scale. You are not large, and this thing is large, and the difference is just there to notice. Several people touch the bark as they pass, not ritually, just the way a hand goes out to something real when you are near it. Food in the forest is different. The open land gave roots and berries and occasional larger animals. The forest gives different things. Mushrooms, when you find the right kind, and finding the right kind requires a knowledge that is entirely visual, entirely memorized, with no room for uncertainty. The wrong kind will take you apart from the inside over the course of a day. The right kind can keep you going for longer than you might expect. There are nuts here, beginning to come down. The season is far enough along that the first ones are already on the ground, some of them still intact. The gathering is patient work, low to the ground, hands moving through leaf litter. The whole group participates. Even the child, with small, serious hands, gathering. There is also a form of hunting here that is different from the open land. In the open land you can see a long way, and the hunting is about distance tracking from far, moving to intercept, using the terrain. In the forest you are close to things before you know they are there, and they are close to you, and the skills that matter are the skills of the very near. Listening, patience, the ability to be still for a very long time in a way that is not uncomfortable. One of the group waits by a game trail for most of a morning. The others have moved on to gather. When they return, the hunter has not moved, is still in the same place. Watching the trail. The trail has been used. Recently the prints are clear, but whatever used it has not come back. The hunter waits. The others settle nearby and wait with them, not because they expect success necessarily, but because the waiting is a shared thing. In the late afternoon, something comes down the trail. Small, not worth the full effort it took to wait. But worth something. On the fourth day in the forest, the child is not well. Not seriously ill. But something is wrong with the child's digestion. They ate something, probably, that did not agree with them, not a dangerous thing. Just a difficult one. The child is quieter than usual, less interested in the small collecting projects that usually hold their attention. They are being carried more, and the carrying is done with a particular quality of attention that is different from ordinary carrying. The person who is with the child most closely has a specific kind of focus that you recognize in yourself on days when something is not right about your own body. A constant small checking. The way awareness settles on a thing that is not yet resolved. You eat carefully today. Everyone does, without anyone saying to. A collective recalibration, automatic, the way group behavior adjusts to new information about what the environment might or might not contain. By the end of the day, the child is better. Not fully recovered, but moving in the right direction. They eat a little in the evening. They sleep deeply. The person with them stays close, but their attention relaxes. This kind of event, small, resolved, leaves a residue, a kind of alertness that does not fully go away for a day or two. You keep checking. You watch what is eaten more carefully for a while. The world was slightly less trustworthy for a few hours, and the return to baseline takes time. The forest ends. It doesn't end abruptly. The trees thin first, then spread out more, then become individuals standing in something more like grassland. And then there is just the edge, that clear place where the dense canopy stops and the sky opens up overhead again. You step into the open, and the light lands on you, and the largeness of the sky is a physical thing. You had forgotten, in the forest, how much sky there is, how much light can come from above when nothing blocks it. You stand in it for a moment. The land ahead is new. You have not been here before, this exact stretch. You might have been near here, or someone you traveled with once described something in this direction, or the eldest's knowledge covers terrain in this general area. But this specific stretch of ground, these specific hills and grasses, this particular shape of the horizon, this is unfamiliar. Unfamiliar land takes more attention than familiar land. It is not dangerous, necessarily, but it is unknown, and unknown means more of everything. More reading, more caution, more energy spent on decoding what familiar land you can navigate partly by habit. You move forward into it slowly. Something about the quality of the light changes your sense of the season. It is the angle of it, the way the light is arriving lower now from a direction that was not its direction a month ago. The shadows in the afternoon are longer. The warmth at midday does not build the same way. The days are shortened at their edges, the light arriving later and leaving earlier in small increments that have been accumulating. Early humans who lived through seasonal cycles developed highly sophisticated internal models of seasonal change when certain foods would become available, when animals would move, when shelter needs would shift. These models were not conscious in any abstract sense. They were embedded in pattern recognition developed over years of careful observation. This is not something you reason about, but it is something you feel in a diffuse, running underneath everything kind of way. The season is changing. The requirements of the season are changing. The things that were available are becoming less available. The things that will be required warmth, stored food, deep shelter, are beginning to be more relevant. There is a direction to move that the whole group seems to share without having discussed it. Not south, exactly, not anywhere that can be named, but somewhere that the accumulated knowledge of everyone present agrees is more suitable for the cold months. A direction that is part memory, part reading of the current landscape, part instinct about what the land will offer. You move in that direction. The shoreline comes as a surprise, though it probably should not have. You heard the sound before you understood what it was. A low constant rhythm that did not fit any pattern of wind or water you had been near recently. Then the smell salt, something older than fresh water, something almost geological. Then the sound became clear, and then the light ahead became a specific kind of light that can only come from a large, flat, open surface. You came over a rise and the sea was there. It stretched beyond any border you could give it. Blue and gray and green in different places. Moving constantly in its own deep way, not the movement of rivers, not the movement of lakes, but something that went all the way down and all the way out and had no edge you could see from where you stood. The group stopped. Several people had not seen it before, or not recently enough to have held the memory clearly. The child had not seen it at all. The child stood and stared at it with both of their hands out in front of them slightly, as if approaching something that needed to be handled carefully. You stood there for a while, just standing. There was nothing to do with the sea except be near it. For now. Nothing to gather from it yet, no fire to make from it. Just the being near it. The particular quality of standing at the edge of something too large to take in. The coast gives things, not immediately. You camped the first night on the high ground above the beach, above the reach of any tide, with the sound of the sea filling the night. In the morning you went down. The low water mark where the sea had been and then left was a different kind of edge. The sand here was packed and wet and left marks differently. The sea had left things behind, shells, masses of some dark plant that smelled of deep water, the occasional strange object that had traveled from somewhere and been deposited here without explanation. There were things to eat here. This took some understanding. Not all of the things at the water's edge were food, but some where the discovery of this had happened somewhere in the group's history, passed through generations of knowing what to open and what to leave. The shells with a particular shape. What was inside them, raw and cold, was unlike anything you found on the land. You ate from the sea for the first time in a long time. It tasted of depth and distance. The child ate something from a shell and made a face, and then ate another one. The days on the coast stretched into themselves in a way that was different from the inland days. The rhythm here was not the rhythm of the land, it was the rhythm of the sea itself, which had its own rising and falling that took some learning. The times when the water came close and the times when it drew back changed the available edge of the world and therefore changed what you could do. You learned to read the water the way you learned to read the land by watching, by testing, by making mistakes that cost little and remembering what they told you. There were other creatures here, birds that lived in the noise and the spray and had their own relationship with the sea and its rhythms. Fish visible in the shallow pools the tide left behind, small and clear-finned. Something larger, once in the deeper water just offshore a darkness passing slowly, attended by its own private agenda. You found yourself sitting at the water's edge more than was strictly necessary. There was something about the edge of the sea that took your attention without being demanding. The movement was continuous, and you could let your eyes follow it without needing to make anything of it. Just the movement. Just the light on the water. Just the sound that was always there. There is a night on the coast that you will carry for a long time. The fire is on the beach. The wood here is driftwood, dry and salt bleached, and it burns with a strange color, not the orange of ordinary wood fire, but something that touches green and blue at the edges. The salt in the wood giving the flame a quality that looks almost wrong, almost too beautiful for fire. The sea is very calm tonight. There is no wind. The surface of the water reflects the stars so cleanly that you cannot tell, at the edge of your vision, where the water ends and the sky begins. The stars go down into the water and continue, doubled, and the whole thing is a single enormous dark field with small lights scattered across it. The group is quiet. The oldest member of the group has been humming again the same low rhythm as before, and tonight, gradually, it has become something else. Someone else has begun to make sound alongside them. The two sounds do not match exactly. They circle around each other. Together they make something that is neither of them separately. The child is asleep. The fire gives off its strange colors. The sea breathes in and out on the shore without hurry. This is not a remarkable night by most measures. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. It was an ordinary night in a life of ordinary and difficult nights, and yet there is a quality to it that will not go away quickly, that has settled into the accumulated texture of experience and will color other quiet moments in the time to come. The group does not stay at the coast forever. The season is the reason, as it always is. The coast is generous in some ways, but the cold is arriving, and the coast in winter is a different place. The wind, the wet, the cold that comes off the water and does not relent. The inland has shelter that the coast does not. The valley you have been moving toward, the memory of it held by several people in the group, becomes relevant again. You leave the sea in the morning when the mist is still on the water and the light is gray and low. You come back up off the beach and over the rise and the sea disappears behind you. The sound of it fades. Then it is gone, or close enough to gone that the silence behind it is the silence of the land again. And the land is familiar in a way the sea was not, and familiar is its own kind of welcome. The journey inland is measured not in distance, but in landmarks. The large rock. The place where two streams cross. The trees that grow in a specific configuration that someone saw from a distance and recognized. These are the marks on the map that is not written anywhere but is held by the group collectively. Each person carrying parts of it, the whole map distributed across the people who travel together. The valley, when you reach it, is everything the memory of it said it would be. Not perfect. Nowhere is perfect, but right in the ways that matter, sheltered, with water, with the kind of terrain that game prefers in winter, with a rock face on the north side that blocks the worst of the cold winds and holds the warmth of the midday sun. There is evidence that others have been here. Not recently. A fire ring that has been cold for a long season. Some marks on the rock face that you cannot read clearly. The feeling of a place that is used occasionally by passing groups and is available now. You set up something more permanent than you usually do. Not a building nothing that takes days, but something that takes thought. The hides that were carried are arranged to break the wind at the entrance to a natural hollow. A channel is cut in the earth to move water away from where you sleep. The fire ring is rebuilt, larger, in a place that the rock will help to hold and reflect its heat. This takes most of a day. The work is practical and focused, and the group works together in the way that groups do when they have done this kind of thing many times without much direction. Each person finding the task that needs doing next and doing it. The whole thing assembling itself from the activity of individuals who know their part. By evening, the place looks different. It looks lived in. Not homelike in any modern sense, nothing like that, but arranged. Intentional. The first week in the valley is productive. The game here is real. Not abundant, it is never abundant, exactly but present and readable. The tracks tell you what kind of animals pass through and when and where they prefer to be in the early morning versus the late afternoon. The hunting takes patience, but patience, here, pays. Food is smoked and dried over several days. The process is slow and requires a fire maintained at the right heat for the right duration, which requires someone attending to it across the day, feeding it carefully, keeping the smoke up without letting the heat go too high. This is not interesting work. It is essential work. There are plants here too that can be processed in the cold months, dried and stored, used sparingly, contributing to a diet that is never quite complete but is adequate. The body adjusts to adequacy. You have noticed this over many seasons, that the body is remarkably good at running on what is available, that hunger is a condition rather than a crisis most of the time, and that the particular hunger of late winter, when the stored food is running low, is something you have survived before and will survive again. The child has recovered fully. They are busy in the way children are busy in new places, exploring the immediate geography of the camp, finding hiding places in the rocks, accumulating small treasures. A particular smooth stone, a feather, a piece of shell carried from the coast. The child holds these things and studies them with the absolute seriousness of someone for whom these are the most important objects in the world. The cold comes in properly a few weeks after you arrive. The first real cold morning, not a frost, not a chill, but actual cold. The kind that arrives in your breath and in your joints before you have opened your eyes, changes things, not drastically. The valley is shelter. But the cost of everything goes up. The fire needs more fuel. The food needs to give more warmth. The body needs to work harder to stay warm, and working harder costs more food, and the food is what there is. Everyone moves more carefully now. The conservation of energy is a real thing. Unnecessary movement is not undertaken. Hunting trips are shorter and more considered. The wide-ranging exploration that characterized the earlier weeks is replaced by a more focused activity. The valley is known enough now that you work within its known edges rather than extending beyond them. Long evenings by the fire. This is the gift of winter, if it can be called, that the dark comes early and there is no reason to be anywhere but here, warm, together, the conversation that is not quite conversation. The stories that are not quite stories but are accumulated knowledge passed in a form that is easier to carry than lists narratives, sequences. The memory of something that happened once in a place that can be used again. Research suggests that storytelling and oral transmission of knowledge may have been essential survival tools for early humans, not entertainment, but functional memory systems. A story about where water was found in drought conditions might be the thing that keeps a group alive 2 generations later. Someone traces something in the ground near the fire. Marks that do not mean exactly what writing means, but mean something. A shape that indicates direction. A mark that indicates a kind of animal. These are not random. They have meaning within this group, and the meaning is shared and understood. The deep winter passes the way deep winters pass, slowly, and then not at all, and then suddenly not slow. There are bad days, days when the cold is serious and the food is low and the fire is the only thing that is warm and you stay near it longer than feels useful. Days when a member of the group is ill in a way that is uncertain for a few days before resolving. Days when the weather makes going out impossible and the inside of the shelter is all there is. On those days, the group inhabits its own smallness. The world contracts to a circle of warmth and familiar faces and the ongoing logistics of survival. The fire, the food, the water, the warmth. Everything outside the circle is just cold. Everything inside it is everything. There are also good days. Days when the sun is out, even cold, and the valley is lit in a flat winter light that makes everything crisp and present. Days when a hunt goes well and there is food enough to be genuine rather than careful about. Days when the child does something unexpected and everyone watches it, and something passes through the group that has no name but is real. You are in the valley when the first indication of spring comes. Not warmth, not yet, but something in the light. Something about the angle of it in the late afternoon, the way it catches the top of the cliff above the camp, and holds it golden for a few minutes in a way it has not held it through the winter months. You notice it because you are always watching the light. Not consciously. Just the way the environment is always being processed by something that runs alongside everything else. And the light has changed. Not yet warm, but changed. The oldest member of the group notices it too. You see it in them, a slight adjustment, a lift of attention. They have lived through many more of these transitions than you have. They know what this change means in terms of what the land will begin to offer in the weeks ahead. In terms of where the group should be and when. You sit together for a while that evening, you and the oldest member on the south-facing rock that holds the warmth of the day longer than anything else in the valley. The light does its brief golden thing on the cliff above you, and then it is gone and the cold comes back. But you both saw it. The days begin to stretch. Not suddenly. A minute more of light here, a minute more there. The sun arriving slightly earlier, or lingering slightly longer. The quality of the cold changes, still cold, but a different kind of cold. A cold that has a future in it, that is retreating in some long, slow way. The valley responds. The first small plants at the southern edge of the rock face. Pale green, tentative, but real. The birds are different, more of them, moving differently. Some of them you have not seen all winter, and their return is a kind of sign. The group begins to range further again. The careful conservation of the deep winter starts to relax. There is a loosening of the daily patterns that is felt before it is understood. People go further on the food-gathering trips. Someone walks the full length of the valley and comes back with the report that there is a different kind of track at the north end, a sign of something the valley did not have through the winter. The child has grown. Visibly, you look at the child sometimes and see the person they are becoming underneath the person they are. Not a thought you have in any complicated way, just a noticing. They are different than they were. On a morning that is still cold, but definitively not deep winter cold, the group prepares to move again. The packing is different from the urgent packing of the late autumn. This is leisurely by comparison. There is time to sort what was accumulated through the winter months, to decide what is carried and what is left. The fire ring is left behind. The marks on the rock face are left behind. The impression of bodies in the soft ground near the fire, these are left behind. You stand at the entrance to the valley, and look back at it for a moment before following the others. The place held you through the cold months. It gave what it gave and asked nothing in return except that you learned its shape and its offerings and respected both. You did. The land outside the valley is wet with the melt and the rains. The ground gives differently under your feet than any ground you have walked recently. It is soft and yielding, and the smell of it is very strong. Not unpleasant, just the smell of earth that has water in it and life starting in it again. You walk out into it. The sky above is wide. The birds are making noise. Somewhere ahead, the land is different from here, and beyond that it is different again, and the whole of it is available to move through, and you are moving through it, the way your people have always moved through it. There are things that stay with you from that season. Not thoughts exactly, more like textures. The weight of the child on your back during the long afternoon. The smell of the sea before you saw it. The way the driftwood fire threw colors that looked like something else. The particular quality of the sound the oldest member of the group made on certain evenings, that low rhythm that meant something was settled. The map in your body of the valley. The location of the water seep. The sound that came from the east in the deep of the night that you and someone else heard together without discussing. These things are not organized. They are not stored in any particular place. They are just part of what you are now, mixed in with everything that came before. The whole of it the substance of what it means to have been alive and moving through this world for the amount of time you have been alive and moving through it. There are people in the world who are not in your group. You have seen some of them. You will see more. The world is larger than any single group's movement through it, and it is full of other groups making their own movements, carrying their own maps, their own knowledge, their own textures from their own seasons. Research suggests that by the late Pleistocene, human groups were not isolated. Trade and exchange of materials, obsidian, shells, pigments occurred across distances of hundreds of kilometers, suggesting networks of contact and relationship that were maintained over long periods. You have not thought of this in those terms. But you carry evidence of it, a piece of material that came from somewhere beyond your own ranging, that passed through hands you never saw, that reached you through exchanges you were not present for. You have it. Someone gave it to you once. Where it came from before that, you do not know. The world before writing is not a world without memory. It is a world where memory is everything, where the failure of memory is not the loss of information, but the loss of survival. The location of water in drought. The behavior of a predator you have not seen in several seasons, but whose track you recognize. The way certain plants look before they become toxic, and the way they look after, and the small window between those two states. You carry all of this. The group carries all of this together, distributed, incomplete in any single person, but present in the sum of them. The loss of the oldest member will eventually mean the loss of the things only they carry, certain roots, certain observations, certain knowledges that have not yet been passed on. This is understood without being spoken. It creates a particular quality of relationship to the people who know the most, who have been alive the longest, who have moved through the most seasons. You are not the oldest. You are not the youngest. You are somewhere in the middle, accumulating, passing on what you can, learning what is offered. There is a place you returned to once, a place you were at many months ago, in a different season, under different conditions. You recognize it. The recognition is not certain, you could be wrong. The land here is similar in its features, but something in you says yes. This specific combination of rock and water and tree arrangement. You have been here before. The fire ring from before has been used again since you left. By whom you do not know. The ground around it has been reorganized in ways that are slightly different from what you remember. Someone else was here. They left. They may return. You light a fire in the same ring, and you sleep in roughly the same place, and in the morning, when you wake, the sky is a particular color, and you are in the same world you have always been in. The world that holds all of these places and all of these moments in it like water holds what is dissolved in it invisibly, thoroughly, without preference. The world is getting quieter now. It is the end of the day again, or not quite the end, but the turning toward the end. The point where the light has made its decision. The animals that move at dusk have begun to move. The ones that belong to the dark have not yet come fully forward. You are still. You have been still for some time now. The walk today was long, and the stillness is the body's honest response to that. You are not uncomfortable. You are simply here, and the world around you is simply here, and the two facts are sitting together without needing to do anything with each other. Someone nearby is already asleep. The slow rhythm of their breathing is a sound you have tracked all day, not consciously. Not in any deliberate way. Just the way certain things are always in your peripheral awareness, and the change in them would pull your full attention. The breathing is deep and steady, and it is simply a sound in the evening, along with the other sounds. The fire is low. You will tend it once more before you sleep. Not yet. Let the world become very still now. You have been walking for a long time, through forests and open land and along the shore of the sea and through cold and warmth and rain and clear air. The journey has no name and no destination and no beginning that you can locate exactly. It is just the journey that life is. In a world before the world was organized into something else. You are tired in the way that comes only from real things, from real walking on real ground, from real weather moving through you, from real food found in real places. This tiredness has no complaint in it. It is just the body accounting for itself. All the walking is in it. All the cold and warmth, all the mornings and all the fire startings, and all the readings of the land. Let your hands rest. They have been busy for a long time. They know things. Your hands, how to start a fire, how to read a track, how to carry something for a long way without it feeling heavier than it is. Let them rest now. They have done enough for today. The sounds around you are the sounds they have always been. Wind, somewhere, water, somewhere, the small sound of something living its own life in the underbrush without any interest in your presence. These sounds have been here longer than any person has been here to notice them. They will be here after. Let the shapes of things soften. The trees against the sky, the horizon line, the shape of the land as it rises and falls, let all of it soften from sharp to gentle. Let the details that the day required you to hold clearly become general. The tree is a tree. The sky is sky. The land is just the land. You are a small thing in a large world, and tonight that is not frightening, it is just true. Small and warm, and here, in this particular place, under this particular piece of sky, with these particular people somewhere nearby in their own quiet. The dark comes as it always comes, gradually, without announcement, beginning at the edges and moving inward until the whole of the world is various grades of darkness and the only light is the fire and the sky. Let the fire be. The oldest sound you know is not a word. It is a sound that something animal makes when it is settling. A small adjustment of the body toward rest. A sound that says, for now, there is nothing to do. And the nothing to do is acceptable. And the acceptable thing will be allowed. Make that sound, if you want, in whatever form it takes in you. Or just feel it. Feel what it is to put the day down, to allow the long accumulation of attention and movement and survival and small decision and larger fear to simply be set down for the night, here on the ground of the world, which has held everything that has ever lived on it and will hold you too. For now, gently, sleep is not very far from here. It is close in the way the dark is close, not coming from outside, but coming from inside, rising, taking the edges first, and then the middle, and then everything. The world before civilization is not a simpler world. It is, in many ways, more complex than what came after, more detailed, more immediate, more dependent on the full use of everything that a human being is: the body, the memory, the attention, the relationship to other people, the long patient reading of a world that does not explain itself. But it is, tonight, quiet, the fire is low. The people around you are warm and breathing. The sky above holds its stars the way it always has. The land is doing what it does in the dark, absorbing the cold, holding whatever lives in it, moving its slow water through its slow passages. And you are part of it, not separate from it, looking in. Part of it. A warm animal in the dark, on the old ground, in the long continuous life of the human species moving through the world. Let go of the day. Let go of the walking. Let go of the reading of tracks and weather and sky. Let go of the fire tending and the carrying and the watching of the tree line. Let go of the question of tomorrow, which the morning will answer in its own way. Let the world become very far away now. Not gone, just far. A great distance opening between you and the demands of the waking day. The distance is not worry, it is just space. Just room. You are breathing. The ground is underneath you. The dark is around you. The people are near. This is enough. It has always been enough. The fire gives its last light. The smoke goes up and away. The night takes everything in, the way the night always has, without preference, without memory of the day, without expectation of the morning. And you go down into sleep the way early human life always went down into sleep, not into nothing, not into absence, but into the slow dark world of the resting body, warm and present, still here on the old ground, still part of the long unwritten story of a species learning what it is. Sleep now, Wherever you are, the world is holding you. It always has. But let us stay a little longer before the sleep comes fully. There is no rush. There is never a rush in the dark. The dark does not hurry. It simply waits and holds and gives you whatever space you need inside it. Think about what the hands have held today. Stone, probably, the particular weight of it, the roughness or smoothness depending on its kind. Some rocks in this world are almost silky, where the water has worked them over long seasons, and some are sharp and new-looking, freshly exposed, with edges that can cut if you are not paying attention. You know the difference by feel before you see it. The hands have learned to read. Wood. Different kinds of wood feel different even before you have seen what they come from. Dense wood has a weight that surprises you when you first pick it up. Light wood has an almost dishonest quality, as if it is pretending to be less than it is. Some wood bends. Some wood snaps cleanly. Some wood wants to tear along its own grain, and if you work with that wanting rather than against it, you get further. The height of something, the particular weight of it, the stiffness or the softness depending on how it was worked and how old it is. New hide is stiff and awkward. Worked hide, passed through many hands and many hours of attention, becomes something that fits itself to the shape of whoever carries it. Your hide is not exactly yours. It was an animal's. You are borrowing something that belonged to someone else, and the debt is paid in the care you take of it. Water, the cold of it in the morning, the way it changes its temperature across the day. A shallow pool in an open place will be warmer by midday than it was at dawn. Running water stays colder. The difference between these is information. The same way everything is information here. You drink, and the temperature of what you drink tells you something. Think about what the feet have read today. The ground is never just ground. It has texture and composition and moisture and angle, and all of these things arrive through the soles of your feet before they arrive in your mind. You read the ground the way you read anything else, by attending to it, by noticing what is different from what came before, by storing the differences in the place where useful observations are stored. Soft ground means something different than hard ground. Soft ground holds prints. Soft ground means water nearby or recently. Soft ground can be a problem in certain conditions. If it becomes deep mud, movement slows and sound increases. Hard ground holds nothing and tells nothing about what passed over it recently. Hard ground is the ground of uncertainty. Sloped ground takes more from the legs going up. Going down is faster, but demands a different kind of attention. The center of gravity is forward of where it wants to be, and the instinct is to lean back, and the skill is to find the balance between those two things and move smoothly despite them. Rocky ground is a particular kind of conversation between you and the land. Each step is a small negotiation. Which surface will hold weight? Which will shift? Which is wet and might give? The feet have an opinion about this before the eyes do, and the opinion is usually right. You have spent today reading the world. Not reading in the way that will exist later, with marks on surfaces that hold meaning across time and distance. Reading in the way that requires presence, the way that only works when you are here, in this place, attending to this specific configuration of things. The tracks of an animal in the morning. the smell of water in the afternoon, the quality of the bird sounds in the hour before the rain, the way the wind shifted and what the shift told you about the direction the weather was coming from, the color of the sky at the horizon in 3 different directions over the course of the day. None of this was explicit. You did not sit down and compile observations and draw conclusions. It happened the way perception always happens, as a continuous low process that surfaces as awareness when something changes or when something matters, and otherwise just runs, quietly doing its work. This is what intelligence looked like before there was any organized system for it. This is what knowing was before knowing was made into something that could be stored outside the body. It lived in you. It was you. There is something you have not thought about in a while. A person from a different group encountered once at a watering place during the summer many months ago. The encounter was brief and careful, not hostile, just careful, the particular care of 2 separate worlds briefly overlapping without either one knowing enough about the other to be fully at ease. They were different from your group in ways that were immediately visible. Something about how they carried themselves. Something about the arrangement of what they wore. Small differences, but real ones. They looked at you the way you looked at them, with the open, assessing, non-aggressive attention of someone trying to understand what kind of situation this is. Nothing dramatic happened. Water was shared. There was communication of a kind, not language exactly, but gesture and demonstration, and a kind of exchange that does not need shared words. They went their way. You went yours. What stayed with you from it is difficult to name. Not friendship, not quite. The knowledge of an encounter, preserved in the memory, available for later comparisons. The next time you see signs of another group, you will think of this one, and the memory will inform how you approach the new signs. This is what encounters do. They add to the map. They expand the range of what is familiar even slightly. Research suggests that early human groups maintained periodic contact with other groups across territories, exchanging not just materials but genetic diversity, knowledge, and potentially symbolic communication. The notion of isolated populations is likely inaccurate. Humans have always been, in some sense, connected. There is a quality of attention that only comes with long practice. You have it now, in the way that people your age have it if they have survived to your age. A thing that is not quite alertness and not quite calm, but something between them. Something that is both at once. A readiness that does not require preparation, because it is always already there. Young people are alert in a different way, jumpier, more reactive, responding to more things. You have learned to let most things pass without response, because most things do not require response. The insect sounds. The wind. The predictable movements of birds that are not disturbed by anything. These things make noise in the environment, and you have learned to let them be background, to save the foreground for what is actually different. This is a skill that the body learns over many seasons. It cannot be taught, exactly. It can only be lived into. You earn it by experiencing it, by being wrong about it many times, by surviving the wrongnesses, by accumulating the long record of what mattered and what didn't until the body makes its own adjustments. The child has none of it yet. Everything is foreground for the child. Every sound is equally real. every movement equally interesting, every change in the environment equally worth full attention. This is exhausting to watch sometimes. It is also sometimes clarifying. The child sees things that you miss because you have already decided they don't matter. The river was good today. Not every river day is good. Rivers can be in flood, which makes them difficult. Rivers can be low and stagnant, which makes them unappealing. But today's river, the one you passed by in the mid-morning, was in its middle state, moving well, clear, and the animals it had drawn to it recently were numerous enough that the area around it still held the traces of them. You did not stay long. The traces were days old and the animals had moved on. But the fact of their having been there is a note. In a week or 2 weeks, following the patterns of how animals move in this season, this may be a place worth returning to. You fold this into the forward-looking part of the map. The water itself was very good, cold and clean, with a particular taste of water that comes from high ground and moves quickly and picks up the minerals of the rock it runs over. Different rivers taste different. This one had a clean sharpness to it that was pleasant. You drank more than you needed to, because the day ahead might not have more, and the body's capacity to hold water is the buffer against the afternoon's uncertainty. There was a bird today that you watched for a long time. Not because it told you anything specific. It was doing bird things, moving from branch to branch, making a sound at intervals that might have been directed at another bird somewhere, or might have just been the sound it made. It had a quality to its coloring, some detail in the way the light hit it at a certain angle that made you stop walking and just look. This happens sometimes. The world is full of things that would stop you if you let it, and usually you do not let it, because stopping has a cost. But this once you stopped and the bird was there, very present, very particular in its birdness, and for a moment the whole day was just this. A bird on a branch in the light, making its sound. The oldest member of the group, who was beside you, also stopped, also looked. You did not look at each other. You just both looked at the bird for the same short time, and then the bird moved into the foliage and was gone, and you both began walking again. There was nothing said about it. What was there to say? It was just a bird. It was just the two of you briefly in the same moment, seeing the same ordinary, extraordinary thing. The evening comes slowly at this time of year. The days are long enough that the evening takes its time. The light does not drop abruptly. It retreats in stages, each one slightly more subdued than the last, each one giving the world a different quality. The harsh clarity of midday, the golden warmth of the late afternoon, the softening that comes after that when shadows lose their edges and the colors of things become richer and simpler at the same time. You have watched this transition more times than you can account for. It has never exactly repeated itself. Tonight's version of the light is specific to tonight, this particular cloud arrangement, this particular amount of haze in the air from the morning's rain, this particular position of you in this particular place on the land. Tonight's version of this light will not come again. This is not something you articulate to yourself. It is just the nature of looking. Every look is the only time you will look at this specific thing in exactly these conditions. And so every look matters, if you let it, in a way that does not need to be explained or extended into feeling. It just is. The fire is getting good now. The initial uncertain stage is past, and the wood has settled into real burning, giving heat that you can feel several feet away. Someone has fed it with something that makes the smoke smell slightly sweet. Not pleasantly sweet, just different. A different smell in the air. One that will be part of what tonight smells like. Your body knows things that you do not know you know. This is a strange thing to understand, but you live with it constantly. The small hairs of the neck that move when something changes in the air pressure. The gut that tightens when something is not quite right, before the eyes have identified what. The hands that know how tight to grip something without calculation. The feet that adjust for uneven ground without a conversation between the foot and the mind. The body has been accumulating its own kind of knowledge for longer than memory reaches. Not just your body, the body itself. The human body, shaped by the long time before you. The time of all the others who moved through worlds like this one, whose survival meant your eventual existence. What they learned about how to be alive, where survival depended on it, is in you, in the startle reflex, in the sweat that comes before you have decided to be afraid, in the ability to see movement against stillness even at the edge of your vision. You carry the past in your body. You carry the people who came before not as memory but as capacity. The night is fully here now. The transition is complete. The sky is dark in the way that is final for tonight, and the stars are out in their full number, and the fire is the only made light in any direction you can see. The sounds of the night have settled into their expected arrangement. The insects that make noise in the early night are doing so. The larger sounds that come later, when the night is older, have not yet begun. This is the comfortable middle zone of the dark after the transition from day before the deepest part of the night. Someone in the group is very close to sleep. You can see it in the way their head drops slightly, corrects itself, drops again. The effort to stay awake against the body's insistence is visible. Eventually, the insistence will win. It always does. You are still awake. You are not fighting sleep, it has not yet come for you. But you are also not resisting the general heaviness of the day settling into you. You are simply here, in the space between still awake and not yet asleep, which is its own kind of place. Let the fire have your attention for a moment. Just the fire. The way it moves without pattern but also without randomness. The way each flame is individual and brief and replaced immediately by another flame so that the fire seems continuous when in fact it is constantly ending and beginning. The colors in it. The pale blue near the base where the oxygen is richest. The orange above that. The occasional red and yellow at the edges of the new material. If there is a piece of wood with something in it, the flame will throw something unusual, a brief green, a brief purple, and be gone before you have fully seen it. The heat from it is real. Your face knows the direction of the fire even when your eyes are closed. This is not magic. It is just a face knowing what warmth feels like and where it is coming from. The face is very good at this. Let the fire be the whole of what you are attending to. Let everything else become background. The sound of the others around you. The sound of the night. The weight of the ground beneath you. Let all of that be there without you having to manage it. Just the fire. You are almost asleep. Not quite. But the edges of things have softened. The fire is still visible, but it is not requiring anything from you. The sounds are still there, but they are not asking you to do anything about them. The world is still present, but it has backed off to a comfortable distance. This is the gift of having had a real day. The kind of tiredness that does not carry anxiety in it. The body has done what it needed to do. The day did what it did. The night is here, and the night is allowed to be just the night. The people around you are here. Not every person you have ever known, not everyone you will know, just the ones who are here now, in this place, on this night. That is the complete world for tonight. This fire, these people, this piece of sky. Let it be enough. It is enough. Somewhere in the world, very far from here, other fires are burning. Other people in other valleys and on other hillsides and near other rivers and by other bodies of water. All of them like you, warm animals in the dark, tired from the day, attended by the small sounds of the living world, carrying their own maps and their own memories and their own shapes of knowing. None of them know about you. You do not know about them. But you are all here, in the same dark, under the same stars, in the same old world, doing its old work of turning and keeping and holding. This is what human life is, in its oldest form. This is what it was before it became what it became. Not worse than what came after, not simpler, just different, just earlier, just closer to the beginning. The beginning is very far back, further than you can reach with memory or imagination. Before the valley you know, before the coast you remember, before the oldest person you have ever known was born, before the stories that were already old when you heard them, all the way back to something that was just the land and the sky and small groups of people learning slowly over thousands of years and thousands of generations what it meant to be what they were. You are that. You are still in that. The world you wake up in tomorrow will still be that world, the old world, the unwritten world, the world that is entirely present and physical and immediate. And in this world, in this night, in this specific piece of dark with this specific fire and these specific people, you are here. Sleep. Sink down into the ground of the world. Let the body release its long holding. The holding of the posture through the walking day. The holding of the attention through the careful hours. The holding of the self together that is always happening and that you do not notice until it stops. Let it stop now. Let the ground take the weight. It is what ground is for, the oldest surface there is, and it has held everything that has ever lain down on it, and it holds you now without complaint, without effort, without the need for any return. You are lying down on the earth the way your ancestors lay down on the earth, all the way back to the beginning of what you are. The same dark above you, the same ground beneath you, the same body, warm and tired, asking only to rest. Rest, the fire goes down. Slowly, the way it always goes down when nobody tends it. The wood becomes coals, becomes ash, becomes nothing but warmth radiating from the place where the fire was. The circle of light shrinks. The dark moves in a little, not threateningly, just as dark does, filling the available space. The sounds of the night continue. They will continue until morning. They are not waiting for you to sleep. They are just doing what they do, the whole complex living noise of a world that does not stop when the human part of it stops. You do not need to monitor it tonight. Tonight it can run without you. Tonight the world can take care of itself for a while. Let the last thoughts come and go. The small inventory of the day, what happened, what it meant, what tomorrow might bring. Let this happen without engaging with it. Let the thoughts come like the sounds come real, passing, not requiring anything from you. The face of someone near you, the weight of the day in your legs, the cool air that has replaced the warmth of the late evening. These small things, let them be the last things, small and ordinary, the everyday texture of a life lived close to the ground. Then let those go too. Let everything go. This is the end of the day, this particular day, this specific arrangement of events and weather and movement and small moments. It will not come again. It is over now, folded into the permanent past along with all the other days, the accumulation of which is the whole of what has been. But you are not over. You are here, and tomorrow you will be here again, and the world will offer what it offers, and you will read it as you always have, carefully, imperfectly, with all that you have. For now, though, nothing. Just the dark. Just the ground. Just you, going down into the oldest rest. Sleep well. The world is here. The fire was warm. It is enough.